Welcome to another Inside Music Row. Today we'll celebrate the life of the legendary George Jones. We'll also hook up with Rick Monroe to talk about this year's Jaeger Tour. Finally, we'll check out Lenny Cooper and his new brand of mudding music. All this and more coming up Inside Music Row. Hey there, I'm Bailey, and I'm so glad you joined us for another Inside Music Row. We've got a great show today, so let's get started with Restless Heart. The group is still beating strong after 3 decades. In celebration of those 30 years, the country music hitmakers are returning home to their first record label to release music, both old and new. Playlist, The Very Best of Restless Heart, hit stores this week and includes 12 of the group's biggest hits, plus 2 new songs. The band is back together in its original lineup, and they're currently out on the road for the 30 Years and Still Restless tour. The lineup for the 21st annual Graves Mountain Festival of Music is set. Look for performances from Carolina Chocolate Drops, Steep Canyon Rangers, Russell Moore and Third Time Out, the Cleverleys, and many more when the festival kicks off May 30th in Syria, Virginia. USA Today listed Graves Mountain in the 10 great places to go to bluegrass festivals last year. Plenty of Texas artists have come together to help the West Texas community after the recent tragedy there. Last weekend's Texas Thunder Festival in Gardendale featured the Randy Rogers Band, Casey Donahue Band, Josh Abbott Band, Stoney LaRue, and many more, with 100% of the net proceeds donated to local schools and first responders in that area. After traveling all over the Lone Star State, stopping oftentimes in West, all the artists were completely on board to help. The Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum has just opened several new exhibits just in time for the summer. Radio Romance, Mainstream Country in the 1980s highlights a collection of artists that used pop influences in their country music. The exhibit features Janie Fricke, Barbara Mandrell, Eddie Rabbitt, and Steve Wariner. Another exhibit, Lee Greenwood, American Patriot, incorporates many of Lee's musical artifacts spanning his 50 years in the music business. Both exhibits will be open through next spring. Now it's time to go inside the song. The LoCash Cowboys have a very cool track on their new self-titled album called Best Seat in the House. We had a chance to catch up with Preston Brust to hear how that song got started.
So Chris and I were playing the Grand Ole Opry. We were making our debut at the Grand Ole Opry, and it was a great weekend. It was Mother's Day weekend. Our families were all there. Our moms were in the audience. So it was really cool to be able to step into that circle and look out into the crowd and see our moms and say, Happy Mother's Day. We made it. You know, it's really cool. And so we did our songs, and we got a standing ovation, and it felt so good. And we walked off stage, and I hugged Chris, and I said, man, I'm proud of us, man. You know, and he says, and he's got tears in his eyes. And I said, what's going on, man? I mean, tonight was perfect. He said, well, tonight would have been perfect had my dad been here. And I said, man, your dad was here, man. And he says, huh? And I said, he's got the best seat in the house. And then we kind of looked at each other, and we knew that someday, you know, as songwriters, we were going to write that song. So after, you know, a lot of healing went by, a lot of time, months and months, finally, Chris and I sat down in a room with Aaron Barker, who's an amazing writer. And we brought up that story, and Chris, you know, kind of had tears in his eyes. He said, I think I'm ready to write that song, you know. And so we wrote Best Seat in the House about his dad. And it was, you know, it hasn't been cut yet, but it'll always be probably one of the most special songs we've ever written.
I hope you have some cool Memorial Day plans coming up this weekend, maybe some that involve one of the hot tours around the world. Let's take a quick peek at who's going where and when. time for a short little break, but before we go, we have some new music up for grabs from Lenny Cooper. You'll hear more from him up ahead, but make sure to enter this week's drawing for a copy of Mud Dynasty right now. Head on over to InsideMusicRow.com to get signed up. Now for that break, but hey, don't go away. We'll revisit a birthday celebration with George Jones when we come back.